I'm not usually the kind of person who posts on Reddit, and if my NDA hadn't expired 2 weeks ago, I'd still be keeping my mouth shut. But lately, the dreams have gotten worse. My hands shake even when I'm awake. I feel like something's still watching me. So yeah, I guess I just need to get this out. Back in 2019, I took a job as a nighttime security contractor in Utah. I was 29, newly divorced, and living out of my truck when I got the offer. The pay was double anything I'd made before, and they were providing free housing. Sounded too good to be true. Spoiler alert? It was. The job listing was vague. All it said was, seeking independent, dependable individual to oversee decommissioned government facility, night shift only, remote, housing provided, excellent pay. I called the number and spoke with a guy named Raymond. He sounded old, tired, like he'd smoked 1,000 cigarettes too many, but he was polite. He explained that the facility used to be part of a Cold War-era nuclear bunker system, but now it was just a relic. No danger, he assured me. Just needs a warm body to keep an eye on the place. Protocols, you understand. Didn't really understand, but I didn't care. They flew me out to southern Utah, picked me up in a blacked-out SUV, and drove me deep into the Red Rock Desert. I didn't see any signs on the way, just dirt roads and jagged cliffs. Eventually, we passed a rusted gate with a faded government seal. Then we descended into a canyon where the facility sat, half buried in stone. It looked like a massive concrete rectangle punched into the earth. No windows, just a steel blast door and a keypad. Raymond met me in person that first day. He was wiry and pale, maybe in his 60s, with the kind of look that told you he'd seen things. Things you didn't want to know about. He handed me a laminated sheet. The rules. Here's what they said. 1. You must remain inside the facility between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. No exceptions. 2. Lock the blast door by 8:15 p.m. Do not open it for anyone, even if they claim to be staff. 3. Do not enter Section 7. The hallway is sealed for your safety. 4. If you hear voices over the intercom, do not respond. They are not real. 5. Every night at 3:33 a.m., press the yellow button on the main console. Do not miss this step. 6. If the red warning light above the server room turns on, hide. Do not look at the screen. Wait until the light goes off. 7. Never, under any circumstances, touch the locker labeled 43. Follow those and you'll be just fine, Raymond said. I laughed a little when I read it. Is this some kind of weird hazing thing? He didn't laugh back. You'll get it after the first week, he said, then got in his truck and drove off. It had no cell signal, no internet, but the bunker had electricity, running water, and a decent little room with a cot, a microwave, and a TV with a built-in DVD player. There were a few old movies and a stack of books. Not bad, honestly. I explored the place a bit that first afternoon. Most of it looked like an old fallout shelter. Concrete halls, metal doors, dusty control rooms. Section 7 was welded shut. I figured it was collapsed or maybe full of asbestos. The main control room was where I was supposed to stay. It had monitors, buttons, and an old terminal that still ran some kind of archaic government software. The yellow button was there too, just sitting in the middle of a dusty console. That first night, I followed the rules, locked the door at 8:15, sat in the control room, read some Tom Clancy. Nothing happened. Until 3:33 a.m. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the console beeped. It startled me, not because it was loud, but because it was so precise. I pressed the yellow button like the rules said. The screen flashed green, then went back to normal. Nothing else happened. I actually laughed. I remember thinking this whole job was just some paranoid government holdover. Maybe they didn't even know why the button had to be pressed anymore. Just protocol. The next few nights were the same, until night 6. That night, around 1 a.m., I heard the intercom crackle. It made my blood go cold. I hadn't touched the comm system. I didn't even know it worked, but suddenly the speaker above the console came to life, full of static. And then, a voice. It sounded like a child, a girl, maybe 8 or 9. She said, "Can you let me in? I'm cold, please." I'm lost. I froze. It wasn't just creepy. It sounded real. Like someone was out there, just beyond the blast door. "Please," she said again. "I want to come home. I promise I won't break anything." I nearly got up. My instincts kicked in. What if a kid had wandered out here and got trapped? But then I remembered Rule 4. If you hear voices over the intercom, do not respond. They are not real. I sat back down. I didn't answer. The voice kept pleading for nearly 20 minutes, growing quieter, more desperate, until it finally faded into static. The next day, I found an old journal in the storage room. It belonged to someone named Arna H. Wells, dated 1983. Most of the pages were torn out or unreadable, but one part stuck with me. They don't like to be ignored, but that's the only way to keep them from crossing over. Don't look, don't answer, don't engage. There were drawings in the margins, rough sketches of humanoid shapes with no eyes, standing in doorways or behind glass. After that, I started sleeping with the lights on. On night 9, I heard footsteps, not over the intercom, not my imagination. Real, solid, heavy footsteps, echoing through the corridor outside the control room. Then a knock on the blast door. 3 slow knocks. I checked the monitors. Nothing. Then a man's voice. "It's Raymond. Forgot to give you the updated codes. Open up." My skin crawled. I hadn't seen Raymond since day 1. He wasn't due back until the end of the month, and I remembered Rule 2. Do not open the door for anyone, even if they claim to be staff. Raymond knocked again. "I know you can hear me," he said. "Just open the door. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I backed away and locked myself in the storage room until sunrise. When I opened the door the next morning, the dirt outside was undisturbed. No tire tracks, no footprints, nothing. Night 12 was when things really started falling apart. I was dozing in the control room around 3 a.m. when the entire facility shook. It felt like an earthquake, the kind that rattles your teeth. I ran to the hall. The lights were flickering. Then I noticed something worse. The door to Section 7 was open. The welds were broken. The hallway beyond it was pitch black. I don't remember deciding to move. My body just went. I grabbed the emergency flashlight and crept toward the entrance. The air was different there. Colder, thicker. Like something was breathing through the concrete. I took one step in. Just one. And I heard something whisper, "You're not supposed to be here." I turned and ran, slammed the control room door and locked it. The lights above the server room flicked on, bright red. Rule 6. If the red warning light turns on, hide. Do not look at the screen. I ducked behind the console and held my breath. The screens buzzed to life. I saw shapes moving across them, like shadows, jerky and unnatural, crawling through the facility. One paused, turned toward the camera. Even from my hiding spot, I felt it looking at me. Then the power cut out. I don't remember how long I was in the dark, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 50. When the lights came back on, everything was normal. No more red light. The screens were blank. Section 7 was sealed shut again, and the locker marked 43 was open. I hadn't touched it, but there it was, cracked an inch, just enough to see a mirror inside. A round, dirty mirror that somehow reflected the hallway behind me. Only, there was something else in the reflection. A tall, thin figure standing directly behind me. When I turned around, nothing was there. I slammed the locker shut and duct-taped it closed. By week 3, I was losing it. My food tasted like ash. My skin felt dry, like it was cracking. Every time I looked in a mirror, I swore my eyes looked darker, like something was crawling in them. But I kept pressing the yellow button at 3:33 a.m. every single night. Until one night, I missed it. I fell asleep at the console. When I woke up, it was 3:36 a.m. 3 minutes too late. The screen was flashing red. Containment failure. Alarms screamed. The blast doors shook. Every monitor flickered with static and faces. Dozens of them, pressed against glass, smiling without lips. I ran, didn't even grab my gear. I just sprinted through the bunker, up the emergency ladder and into the desert. I didn't stop until sunrise. They found me a day later, half mad and dehydrated. A government vehicle picked me up, ran some tests, then drove me to an airport without saying a word. Raymond didn't show. No one explained anything. I got a check in the mail a week later. $48,000, no return address, no contact info, just a sticky note inside the envelope that said, "You followed most of the rules, good enough. I've never gone back to Utah." Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the intercom crackle, even though I'm thousands of miles away. And sometimes, when I wake up, the yellow button is there on my nightstand, just sitting there, waiting. It's been nearly 5 years since I left the bunker in Utah, since I missed pressing the yellow button and everything went to hell. I've tried to forget, I really have, but some things don't stay buried. This isn't just a follow-up, this is a warning. They don't want me talking, but someone has to know. After I escaped the bunker, things were quiet for a while. I took the hush money, moved out to Oregon, and rented a small cabin near the coast. No neighbors, no questions. I spent my days chopping wood, fishing, and trying not to think about what I'd seen. For the first few months, it almost worked. Almost. But then the dreams started. Every night, the same scenario. I'd wake up inside the bunker, not in the control room, but deeper, in Section 7. The walls were pulsing like they were made of skin. The lights were flickering red, and I could hear something breathing behind the walls, wet and labored, like an animal dying slow. And there was always a mirror in the dream, just floating in the dark. I'd look into it and see myself, except not really. My reflection didn't blink when I did. It didn't smile when I smiled. And every time I stared long enough, it would raise its finger and tap the glass. 1, 2, 3 times. Then whisper, "You're still in here." The worst part? Every time I woke up, the yellow button would be sitting on my nightstand. The same one from the bunker. Scratched, dusty, cold. I threw it in the fireplace once. It was back the next morning. I started keeping a journal. I figured if I was losing my mind, at least I'd document it. But then weird things started happening in the real world. Electronics in my house would flicker at 3:33 a.m. every night, without fail. The lights would dim. The TV would switch to static even if it was unplugged. And once, my radio picked up a voice, crystal clear. "You're late, operator." My stomach dropped. That was the exact term the console used in the bunker, operator. I smashed the radio to pieces, but the voice returned the next night. This time, coming from the mirror above my bathroom sink. I tried everything. Burning sage, salt lights, even hired a priest once, not that I really believed it would help. He lasted 10 minutes in my house before going pale and saying, "I don't know what this is, but it's old. Older than any demon I've ever dealt with." He didn't charge me, he just left. Smart man. About a year after I left Utah, I got a package in the mail. No return address, just a box with an old VHS tape inside. It was labeled Bunker Feed, Incident Report 119. I don't even own a VHS player. Had to go to a pawn shop in Tillamook to find one. The guy behind the counter gave me a weird look when I brought the tape. Asked where I found it. I told him not to worry about it. I watched the footage at home. Lights off. It was dated 3 days after I'd fled the bunker. The feed started in the control room. Everything looked normal, except the yellow button was flashing red. Then, something crawled into frame. It wasn't a person. It walked upright, but the joints were bent wrong. Its arms were too long, skin pale and stretched like wet paper. No eyes, just black holes in its face, and a wide, lipless grin. It stood in front of the console, looked directly at the camera. Then it spoke. Operator failed protocol, initiating breach cycle. The feed cut to static. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that. 2 weeks later, I got a visit. Not from the government. From Raymond. He showed up at my cabin at sunset. I didn't even hear his car pull up. Just turned around and saw him standing at the edge of the tree line, dressed in black, holding a cigarette. He looked worse than before. Thinner, paler, eyes sunken deep, like he hadn't slept since 2019. I stepped out onto the porch. "You're not real," I said. Raymond just shook his head. "You broke protocol. That makes you a liability." I raised my shotgun and pointed it at him. "You sent me into that hellhole with a goddamn checklist. You knew." He didn't flinch. "Of course I knew. But you passed the first phase. Most don't." I paused. "What are you talking about?" He took a drag of his cigarette and flicked the ashes into the wind. "They're not interested in containment anymore. They're testing boundaries, seeing what sticks. You survived exposure. That makes you a vector." "A vector?" "Like a carrier. A door." Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're not out of the bunker, son. The bunker's in you now." When I blinked, he was gone. Just like that. No footprints, no sound, just vanished into the trees like smoke. I moved the next day. Since then, I've been on the run, 3 cities in 2 years: Colorado, Arizona, Northern California. But the rules? They follow me. Each time I think I'm free, something happens. A mirror fogs over with handprints. A yellow button appears on my desk. I hear footsteps above my ceiling at 3:33 a.m., even when I'm living on the top floor. And always, the voice. Press the button. 2 months ago, I tried something desperate. I returned to Utah. Figured maybe if I destroyed the original site, I could break the connection. The bunker was gone, not just sealed, gone, like it had never existed. The canyon was filled in, no gate, no tire tracks, just red desert. I drove around for hours with a Geiger counter and a metal detector. Nothing. That night, I slept in my truck. At 3:33 a.m., I woke up gasping for air, my lungs filled with cold. The back seat was fogged over. And in the rearview mirror, I saw something behind me. Raymond. Only it wasn't him anymore. His skin was sloughing off in sheets. His eyes were sockets of ash. He leaned forward and whispered in my ear, "You're not supposed to be here." I drove until sunrise. Didn't stop until I crossed into Colorado. My hands haven't stopped shaking since. You're probably thinking I'm insane, that this is just a mental breakdown. I wish to God that were true. But I'm not the only one. There's a forum I found, buried deep on the dark web. Operator 333 net now defunct, maybe taken down. It was full of people like me, former site workers, test subjects, survivors. Most posts were paranoid ramblings, but one stuck out. A user named redacted_facility12 posted this: "There are over 40 known bunkers like the one in Utah. Decommissioned my ass, each with a different anomaly, each with its own rules. The government didn't build them, they just found them. Containment is breaking, the rules are breaking. The thread had 43 comments. The last one just said, "Press the button. Press it or they'll get through." I think I'm starting to understand now. The rules weren't just safety measures. They were rituals, anchors. The yellow button was never about stopping a machine. It was about feeding something, keeping it calm. And when I missed it, something got out. Last week, I woke up in a motel in Nevada. Had no idea how I got there. My last memory was pouring a cup of coffee in Arizona. On the motel desk was a new set of rules, typed on the same laminated card as before, but this time it said, "Facility status, mobile vectoral containment, operator ID 43. 1. Do not remain near reflective surfaces after 3:00 a.m. Cover all mirrors, too. If you hear scratching from inside your mattress, leave the room immediately. 3. You must press the yellow button, now portable, at 3:33 a.m. every night. 4. Do not answer your phone between 3:30 and 3:35, even if it rings. 5. If you see the man in the corner of your room, pretend you don't. He only moves when acknowledged. 6. Never return to the original site. It's not there anymore. But he is. 7. You are no longer protecting the world from the bunker. You are protecting the world from yourself. I tried not to panic, but the moment I read Rule 7, I understood something awful. I've become a containment zone. It's me now. That's why I'm writing this, because if I disappear, if this post goes dark, it means I missed another 3:33. It means something else has crossed through me. I can't run forever. I don't know how many of us are left, but I know this. If you ever get hired to guard a bunker, a warehouse, an oil rig, an old asylum, and they give you a list of rules, leave. Don't ask questions. Don't take the money. Don't press the button.